7. Welcome to the hustle. Anyway, I have such a great show today. I got so much going on today. It's not even funny. But anyway, I have someone that's really special on my show. He's special not to me, not just to me, but probably to DC. So that's why I'm saying this show is so incredibly special, because I think that what he is going to talk about and all the entire, his story and whatever story he wants to tell is his story. So that's going to be really interesting. But anyway, so I want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every week. Every Tuesday, 6 p.m., I'm here with The Hustle on Listen Vision Live. I'm so excited. So many different people that are going to be tuning in today. So that's why I'm really kind of excited to be doing this show today, because I know so many different people that are tuning in. But let me just tell you, the reason why today's show is so important is because there were some things that I've been looking at the last few days that relate to my guest today, who will be doing like a monthly segment with my show. And I'm really excited to be introducing that today as well. That's why I say there's a lot of stuff going on. But before I say that, is that life can be so funny. And the reason why I say that is because it can really knock you to your knees. Okay? And we all know that life can do that. And sometimes we get tested in ways that present some of the biggest hurdles in our life. And then all of a sudden, when you think you've gotten past one thing, you get hit with a curveball, and it really knocks you down. So, and my guest today probably experienced some of that, whether he wants to admit it or not. He really experienced some serious curveballs in the last few years. And so it will test you to see how much of your higher self, okay, can come into play. And it will either strengthen your inner self or it will weaken your inner self. So it's not easy. But, as Bishop T.D. Jakes says, if you can stand the rain on the inside, then you can definitely stand the rain on the outside. So my guest today has stood the rain on the inside as well as on the outside, okay? And sometimes the will and the quick fixes even don't even solve some unexpected problems. And as my sister says, just sometimes be still. Don't respond, just be still, Don't make damages and quick fixes, because sometimes it makes the damages worse. And I'm somebody who's like, oh, I gotta figure it out. And sometimes she's like, hey, listen, just be still, calm down. But T.D. Jakes says also, and I know that people are like, why is she repeating T.D. Jakes? But to me, he's so apropos to my guest today. And there was just some messages that came to my mind, and that's why I wrote them down, because it's things that he said that I feel I need to say, because they're on my mind and I feel compelled to say them. And just remember that he says, when God has blessed you and when hate is all around, okay, it doesn't matter. Let the haters hate, because the cream will always rise to the top, okay? When you are blessed, it doesn't even matter who is trying to hate on you or who's trying to come at you, who's trying to get you, because he has already blessed you in spite of that somebody who is trying to curse you, okay? So my guest is a living example of someone who had some haters around him, but he was blessed. And so it really doesn't matter who's hating or who's coming at you. You are surrounded with armor. And that's what he was. And so when I see him, I know he's probably looking at me like, God, I never knew she felt like that. But I really did. And these were things that just kind of came to my heart, to my mind. And to see how well he's done in spite of all the pressure that came at him, I was just really proud that he overcame what he overcame, and he's such a living testimony to, things that can really knock you down, things that will sometimes can knock each and every one of us down, did not knock him down. And he's a living testimony to truly being blessed in spite of having some serious haters around him. He really got blessed, and I'm just so proud to have him on my show. And I was like, Michael, you got to do a segment on my show. So I'm so happy. Without further ado, I want to introduce my guest, Michael Brown, the Honorable Michael Brown, who was once our what's it called, Michael?
Well, it depends on which title you'd like.
Pro Tempore, DC City Council, former Commerce Secretary Ron Brown's son, Miss Alma Brown. A lot of people know her. She was very popular in DC. Her son, not to take his identity, but he did come from somewhere. He just comes from really good stock, and I'm just so proud to have him here as a living, walking example of how you can be tested in life and still overcome it. And he is coming back bigger than better. And I'm so happy that I get to bring him on my show and introduce him and talk about the segment that we're going to be doing each and every month. You will be hearing from him. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to let Michael talk now. Michael Brown, right here. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Alina. I don't know whether to call you Alina or Alina 7.
Oh, you just call me Alina.
All right, well, thank you, and thank you to WLVS for having me. I appreciate being here. Oh, thank you. What did I say? I said WV. Oh, I'm thinking WBLS.
I know, you're talking about New York. See, Michael goes all the way back to, yes, Harlem and all that. Yes. We know that, Michael. But, Michael, do you ever feel, though, like you were blessed, or do you feel that, gosh, why did God let all the stuff happen to me that happened to me? Do you ever have those moments?
No.
No?
I don't. I'm as you mentioned, being blessed is helpful.
Right.
You were talking about T.D. Jakes. My pastor said, and I'm a proud member of 19th Street Baptist Church.
Okay.
And my pastor said to everyone, not just to me, but when he and I were talking and he was giving me counsel, it doesn't matter who you are. You're either in a storm, coming out of a storm, or going into a storm.
Yes.
And so the question isn't about what happens once you're in the storm, is how do you come out of it?
Right.
And again, whether it was because of my grandparents, parents have taught me, my father used to give me this word. I didn't believe it was a real word. Stick-to-itiveness.
Stick-to-itiveness. Okay, we all know that, right?
So, I didn't believe him, so he and I had a bet that it wasn't a word. And so we went into Webster's dictionary, and of course, stick-to-itiveness is in there. And that's what it's all about. It's not, you hope you have good family support, good friend support, and you get through the storm.
Right. So you are blessed in spite of those who cursed you.
Absolutely. You can't
because there were some that did curse you.
Oh, yeah.
You know that.
I've had haters since I was 8 years old. So
right.
you just deal with, and my father had them, my mom had them, my grandparents had them. It's life. And so
right.
I guess when you've kind of grown up with it, you know how to combat it and deal with it.
Right. Okay.
But you just hope you have more friends than haters.
Right. You just hope you have, exactly. And you do. And we know you do, Michael. So, but let's just kind of go back, Michael, to talk about your dad real quick. Then we'll get to your story.
No problem.
But I just want to share that one time when I was an intern at BET, okay, I got sent on an assignment. And that assignment was, Alina, we want you to go down with a cameraman to Capitol Hill. And we want you, do not come back to the station unless you get one question answered from Ron Brown, who was really trying to, at this point, get Clinton elected. And he was really in charge of mobilizing voter registration drives all around the country. So they said to me, Alina, your job is to go down there and ask Ron Brown if he foresees himself working in the Clinton administration, and is that why he's working so hard with the voter registration drive? Your father did not like that question. And I went, Michael, I swear to God, I felt so bad. I was like, should I say it? And I was in a room full of reporters. And I said, oh God, I can't go back to the station unless I say that. How do I say this question? Everybody is like totally like, oh, we're so happy with what you're doing and all that. And guess what he said? He said, what? What is this question you're asking me? And I said, well, sir, I'm just wondering, do you foresee yourself working in the Clinton administration? Is that why? He said, I'm trying to get Clinton elected. That's all my focus. Next question. I was like,
but you got your question. You got your question in. You did your job. You did your
but
job.
he made me feel so bad. I felt like, oh my God, I should really go and apologize to him. But
I feel I need to apologize because that's not. He must have been mad at me about something I did. I didn't clean up my room. I didn't wash the car. I didn't do something because
he was in. Yes,
it's my fault. So I apologize. So he was in a bad mood for some whatever reason.
Well, I think he felt that question was an inappropriate question for what he was also trying to accomplish, and I get that. I completely get that. So.
And he accomplished his goal.
He really did, because he was the one really, along with some other people, that helped Clinton get elected. Do you remember that time?
Oh, absolutely. I remember like
what
it was
were
yesterday.
you doing during that time?
I was so that was obviously late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
I was finishing up, I have to date myself on.
Well, that would have been like 90.
I was probably in law school. And
94, 93?
Oh, no, I was done with law school then. Well, maybe close.
Around that time?
Well, let me just say it was somewhere near there.
Okay.
All right. So,
okay, all right.
And what he did, and this is back when chairs of parties were really strong.
Okay.
So for folks, the history buffs that recall, there were probably, just like now, there were probably about 12 people that were thinking about running for the Democratic nomination for president.
Right.
And serious people, Rockefeller, Tom Harkin. I mean, you had senators, you had governors.
Yes.
And, my father said, look, we're not going to have a bloodbath in the Democratic Party leading up to the convention. We're not going to have you slaughtering each other. I'm going to pick one person.
Yes.
And we're going to mobilize and get behind this person. And he said, Bill Clinton can beat Bush. He was the only one that said it.
He's the only one that
remember,
said
this
that
is
then.
after 8 years of Reagan.
Yeah.
4 years of Bush. Remember, Reagan is the god in the Republican Party, so there's no way you're going to beat his vice president.
Right.
And Dad said, yes, we are, because we're going to mobilize behind Clinton. And obviously, Clinton was from the South, so it gave us an opportunity to do things Democratic Party hadn't done since Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
To win in the Bible Belt, which is the South.
Right.
Clearly, the Electoral College favored us in the West and in the Northeast.
Right.
But the fact that Bill Clinton was able to do so well in the South, he was able to beat George Bush.
Right. Wow. That's amazing.
And Dad and my father had mapped that out well before people even thought it was even a chance. Obviously, he had a great team behind him.
Right.
And it worked out.
But had he learned from when Jesse Jackson had run?
Well, he had.
Did he learn a lot from that race?
He actually goes back to 1980 when he worked for Senator Kennedy. When Senator Kennedy ran against Jimmy Carter.
Okay.
And that was 1980. And then obviously he kept walking up the ladder to then when Reverend Jackson asked him to manage the convention for him.
Right.
So he could make sure that he had a piece, because Governor Dukakis was the nominee.
Yes.
But wanted to make sure that Reverend Jackson was going to be able to be a part of the campaign.
Wow. So he managed the whole
convention for Reverend Jackson to make sure Reverend Jackson has his credentials. Wow. And now when you go back, for the history buffs that want to go back and go online and look at the hall of the convention in 1988 and all those Jesse signs.
Yes.
All those deals are cut behind the curtain.
Really?
And my father certainly negotiated with Governor Dukakis to make sure that was Reverend Jackson's night.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, he was such a great leader. I mean, he really. What do you think was so special about your dad?
I think he had a lot of good qualities. First, he was smart.
Yes.
He was charming. He was extremely smooth, and he had great relationships, and he was able to bring parties together.
Yeah.
And so he had.
But he didn't tolerate a whole bunch of mess, though. It's not like you could just come to him and you know what I'm saying.
Not a lot of drama around.
No, he didn't take a whole bunch of stuff.
No. And that's part of being a good leader.
Yeah.
In today's world, our leaders are surrounded with drama. And it may not necessarily be the leader's fault. Social media has a lot to, my father didn't have to deal with social media. Reverend Jackson didn't.
Yes, he
Dukakis didn't.
Right.
So now social media is a whole different game relative to how people are covered.
Wow, wow, wow. That's incredible. I mean, I just think that I remember those times, and DC was obviously a different place and it had different leadership than it does now. And so DC was like a really special place, but I could remember your dad having such a presence here.
And he was born here. He was born in DC.
Oh, he was born in DC. Okay. But how did he get to Harlem?
Well, of course, you can read my sister's book and soon my book. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, we'll get to that, right? Michael coming out with a book. Okay.
He was born, my grandparents went to Howard.
Okay.
And then they stayed here after Howard and lived on 8th Street.
Okay.
And my father was born at Freeman's Hospital, right down the street.
Right down. Now it's called
Howard University Hospital.
Yep.
And actually, if you were African American in D.C. then, even though it was called Freedman's Hospital, it was called Freeman's Hospital.
Freeman.
Black folks called it Freeman's. Because if you were a person of color, you could go to that hospital. So my father was born free. And then my grandfather, who was from New York, moved back to run the Hotel Teresa in Harlem. And that's how he got back to New York.
And that's how he got back to New York.
And he lived in the Hotel Teresa when my grandfather managed it.
Wow. Okay. So he was part of like the whole celebrity culture in like Harlem with Hotel Teresa and all that.
Well, he was a little kid, but certainly my grandparents were definitely part of that. They were, yes. So actually, it's interesting when you watch some of these older movies that take place in Harlem. Usually, they have a scene at the Hotel Teresa. Okay. Whether you're Sugar Ray Robinson, whether you're Paul Robeson, whether you're Fidel Castro, whoever you were, if you were a prominent person of color, you couldn't stay at the Waldorf Midtown, or anywhere Midtown. You had to come uptown, and the Hotel Teresa was the Ritz-Carlton of the black community, black and Latino community.
Okay. Hey, I just want to give out this number. If anyone wants to call in, don't forget, you can call in to us at 202-596-8601 to speak with Michael yourself, okay? 202-596-8601. You can call into that number. That's going to be the number that you can call in all the time, not just today, but, since Michael is here, we did kind of open up that line and make it available so that people could call into him, okay? Okay, so now we're gonna switch to you, Michael, okay? So take me back. Tell me what you want to tell me, because I know we talked about it. I was like, well, Michael, can you talk about this? Can you talk about this? You're like, yes, no, yes, no. So I don't want to overstep my boundaries.
First of all, I don't remember saying no to anything. First of all, I'm not scared to talk about anything. Everything is in perspective. So whatever question you have, I'll ask. So look at your little iPad and ask your little question.
I know that, but I'm kind of like nosy, and you know that, Michael. So I'm going to be like, well, Michael, but why this and why that? Okay. Yes. So Michael, for those people who know you, you were sitting at the top of your game, okay, in D.C. You were basically kind of like right there, almost at the head of the council. Mm-hmm. Okay? So take me back to that time. Why, what was the issue, and why did you find yourself in this problem?
Well, anytime that, and I appreciate your question.
Okay. I tried to keep
I know you were struggling. You were struggling.
I'm struggling, but
your question is
I'm
totally
trying
fine
to be,
and absolutely fair. And
I'm trying to be fair.
No, you're totally fair.
Okay.
No, anytime someone gets into kind of a situation that there's always a set of circumstances that kind of walked you through that. And whether right or wrong, you can, especially if you are a target. And if you're a target or if you're higher profile than others, and, you have to be careful. And I was not careful. And I have to take full responsibility for putting myself in a wrong set of circumstances. As you know, I certainly had to pay the price for that, and went away for a little more than a year and a half, and tough on my family, tough on me, but came back. Thank goodness the Supreme Court overturned the statute that I was charged with. Me, Governor McDonnell, Senator Menendez of New Jersey, Governor McDonnell of Virginia,
right.
Speaker Silver in New York, and a host of other people around the country. That statute certainly being reversed by the Supreme Court, 9-0 decision. And
who did that? Who was in
Justice Roberts, who wrote the opinion, he said one of the things he said, which is absolutely accurate. He said the conduct. He didn't mention the names of the people because it was Governor McDonnell's case.
Okay.
But the conduct of the elected officials may have been sleazy, but not a crime.
But not a crime, meaning
we shouldn't have done what we did, but it wasn't a crime.
But it wasn't a crime.
Correct.
Because
but
it's not like you went ahead and gave somebody.
Correct.
Positioning somebody is not against
I
the law.
I see you've been doing a little research. Correct.
Positioning is not a crime.
No, what one of the lawyers said is Michael may have helped somebody get a license to fish, but he didn't give them any fish. And that's the distinction.
Okay,
and
that's
so
the
some other
distinction.
Political corruption issues you may see where people actually gave them the fish.
Okay.
And that was the difference that Chief Justice Roberts made.
Right. Now, yours followed up, though, with a transfer of some sort of funds. So did you have to do it? What was that?
What do you mean?
Meaning, it was all over the Washington Post. There was some
really?
money.
I didn't see that. Oh, really?
Am I supposed to talk about that? Or we not?
No,
okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so there was some money involved.
Yes.
But that wasn't necessarily for some sort of
No, I'm
license.
not going to. No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Again, I will answer as best I can.
As best you
without
can.
giving too much detail. Bottom line was, I thought that it was clearly a loan.
Yeah, right.
But still, and the undercover FBI agents, certainly that was part of the setup. And again, I shouldn't have put myself in this circumstance, and I take full responsibility for it.
Okay, great. I'm glad that you cleared that up because, I was like, really? I mean, really?
Well, I mean, also the...
Not you. I'm talking about the whole...
Yes.
The whole sting behind. I mean, it's like really. Come on now.
If you're a conspiracy theorist, and I have some, they wonder why was I targeted in the first place. There's been no pattern of that. So some of the older school Washingtonians' conspiracy theory is, since they couldn't get my dad, now they had an opportunity to get me, because obviously most of the Clinton administration was under investigation for a variety of things.
Right.
And obviously when my father passed away in the plane crash, that his investigation ended. Mm-hmm. But there were still some people didn't like that, and so they had a chance to get me, and for whatever reason I was targeted. Now, there's another conspiracy theory.
Okay.
So around that time, it was election time.
Okay.
There were polls being done, kind of who was going to be the next mayor.
Okay.
And you naturally put people into the poll just to see what happened. I was one of the front runners in that. So then all of a sudden, that could be another reason I became a target, that some people didn't want somebody with my kind of agenda being mayor. My kind of agenda being basically fighting for people of color. I have no problem with the city growing. I have no problem with making sure we're inviting anybody in that wants to be here. Mm-hmm. But don't kick out our old DC residents to make room for new folks. You can do both. You can make sure you attract new residents into the city, having dog parks and bike lanes and whatever folks want.
Right.
But at the same time, if you have some older DC residents that want to stay, they should be able to stay. They shouldn't be forced out. And I think there were some people that didn't like that kind of agenda.
Yeah, right. It's like all of a sudden we have to change the housing in the city to the point where we make it extremely expensive. I mean, who can live in DC? That's what I'm saying. It's almost like one type of person could live in DC. Families can barely afford to live here.
And I fought for things like, most folks don't know things called the Housing Production Trust Fund. And that builds affordable housing units.
Okay.
Frankly, I pretty much, along with helps from some of my former colleagues on the council, but kind of single-handedly saved the Housing Production Trust Fund in 2010, 2011.
Wow.
But again, the Post, I shouldn't call it the Post, media related to me does not like printing good stuff about me. It's usually bad stuff. So I wrote the largest jobs bill in the city's history. It got that much ink. It needed. I changed the thresholds for food stamp recipients. So because remember, we were coming out of recession in 2008
Yes.
when I won.
Right.
And, there were a lot of people that may have been just above the food stamp threshold, but needed food stamps. They
Right.
couldn't afford it.
Right.
So I changed the threshold to allow food stamp applicants to be able to increase. So
Okay.
folks had a chance to survive in this town.
Okay.
So anything related to people of color, our least, the last, and the lost, I fought for, will continue to fight for, and I think a lot of folks didn't like that kind of agenda.
Wow.
That
Wow.
again, if you believe in conspiracy
But-
theories.
Right. But that's really what made Marion Barry so successful here,
Absolutely.
though.
Absolutely.
So why do you think it's not appreciated now, whereas it was appreciated when he was working hard?
Well, as the demographics have changed, the agendas have changed.
Oh.
And if you look at some of the folks that try to, and you can be a successful elected official by doing both.
Mm-hmm.
Following the Marion path and the Jim Graham path, may they both rest in peace, of helping the least, the last, and the lost. At the
Okay.
same time, following another path of making this place the hottest in restaurants, hottest in clubs, hottest in bars, hottest real estate market, hottest commercial market in the country,
Right.
by doing both. And so when I was in office, I was trying to combine both of them to make it safe for an older African American woman to stay in her row house in Northeast if she wants to,
Right.
as well as a new couple moving in from Alaska
Right.
to be comfortable here in D.C. And that's what it's all about. You want to make this city good for
Inclusive.
everyone and inclusive.
Yes, inclusive. Wow. Okay, so moving on.
Yes.
Okay? So let's talk about really what you're here for, okay? But we just wanted to kind of talk about your past and all of that because I think that people are owed that, okay?
Absolutely.
In DC.
And again, one thing my mother told me, she said, at some point, I was apologizing to everybody. I'm so sorry that I put for my supporters and constituents that put their faith and trust in me. And my mom said, stop apologizing. She said, stop apologizing.
She said that.
She said, stop apologizing. She said, you took your medicine. You did apologize.
Right.
You took
Okay.
your medicine, and then you stand up at the end of the day. So to my former constituents, residents of the District of Columbia, for those who I let down and disappointed, I apologize, and I certainly hope to be a better person after that experience.
Aw, that's nice. That is very nice of you.
Thank you.
I know it's coming from
But
a
I'm
good
not
place.
going to apologize much anymore because my mom told me to stop
Your
apologizing.
mom said stop apologizing. Yeah. Okay. I have my own perceptions about that situation, but that's fine.
So you have your own conspiracy theory?
Yes, but nonetheless. And by the way, that man who was in charge of like that whole is not even over at that office, by the way. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm not discussing.
Yeah. But anyway, I've kind of followed that person's career.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, okay. So now Michael is here to talk about race relations in this country as it relates to 2020. Okay. So obviously we will, in the spirit of being authentic on this show, we will be talking about how it relates to news, how it relates to sports sometimes, how it relates to life in general, okay? Entertainment. So you saw recently that Spike Lee, okay, got an Academy Award for his new film called Klansman. So why do you think it took like 30 years? And I'm leading up to where we are right now in terms of race relations and politics, okay? But I just want your perspective on where do you feel like we are coming to where we need to be? Or obviously we have a ways to go, but I'm just saying in terms of entertainment and race relations, I mean, we had 7 African-American entertainment actors, directors, whatever, or costume designers win Academy Awards the other day. I think it was 7 awards for 6 different people or something like that. I think those were the numbers, which is like the most, I think, in a long time. So I think ever.
No,
This was historical.
Absolutely. It was impressive to watch.
Right.
But like anything else, you need time to fix the ills. And the Academy is one of the ills that needed to be fixed. Frankly, I mean, I guess there's an argument that could be made. Denzel should have at least 4.
He has 2, though.
He has 2.
He has
And
2.
nothing wrong with 2.
Right. Okay.
Nothing wrong with 2.
Right.
But he turned himself into Malcolm X. I mean, you know, but
yeah, he
obviously
did. Right.
Exactly. The community in Hollywood wasn't ready to give an award to something related to Malcolm X, and that's part of it. Mm-hmm. But obviously, what Regina King did, impressive. I'm so proud of her. I love her work. And with Spike Lee, I think he probably should have won one all for Do the Right Thing. You know, Driving with Miss Daisy, you know, I get it. But again, Driving Miss Daisy, I didn't think would win of type, but it did in Green Book.
Yeah.
I thought it should have. I don't know if Klansman was the movie of the year. I thought Black Panther was.
Okay.
Again, I don't have a vote with the Academy, and maybe I'm a little biased. But if the Academy really wants to make a statement, having a black superhero win is making a statement. And
right.
for whatever reason, again, nothing wrong with Green Book. Great actors, great work, but we've seen that movie before. In some form or fashion.
Right,
And
in some form or fashion.
We've seen that.
But I will say that I was not aware about the Green Book. And I've asked people, do you know what the Green Book is? And I've asked so many people that, and we really didn't know that much about the Green Book.
Absolutely. And it's
we didn't know that.
And it's important.
And it's
very
important to know that. And that's what was good about that film. But did I think that the acting was so overwhelmingly great in that movie? I don't know about all that. But let's move on to what Spike Lee said something last night. Sunday night, he made a statement, right? That the election is around the corner. And he's saying, let's all mobilize. Let's all be on the right side of history. Make the moral choice between love versus hate. Let's do the right thing. So, you know, I'm trying to do my part. Michael is doing his part. But obviously, President Donald Trump tweeted the next day and really kind of, you know, criticized Spike Lee for saying that. What do you feel? How do you feel about what President Trump said in spite of the fact that Spike Lee won this award and was trying to mobilize? And he did say, listen, let's come together for love and not hate. Right. Well, but he took offense to this.
Well, I don't say that person's name. I just say number 45.
Okay, number 45.
And so what
yes.
I think the challenge that we all have, and I think hopefully we're getting to that point, is you know that little kind of knucklehead bully, and you just need to just ignore him.
Right.
And people need to not worry about what he says anymore, because most of it's not true. He's usually picking on somebody, hitting somebody. Who cares what he says? And what Spike was saying, and congratulations to Spike, by the way, and what Spike was saying was, stop complaining. Stop. Are you ever say bitching and moaning on your
Yes.
show? Oh, stop and stop being armchair quarterbacks and get out and vote. It's inexcusable when people, after an election happens, stand up and complain, oh, my vote wouldn't account. Yes, it does. 45 won by 77,000 votes on the Electoral College. He didn't even win the popular vote. He lost by 3 million.
Right.
But if people had gotten out in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, it would have been a whole different story. But now you have an opportunity to fix it. Mm-hmm. And that's in 2020. And I think you're going to see massive turnout. You're also going to see turnout by those red hat wearing 45 people too. So don't let them out hustle you. Don't let them out phone call you. Don't let them out knock on more doors than you. Be a participant in this election. You don't have to understand every single solitary issue, but you need to know one. You have number 45 who doesn't care about you, and then you have somebody that will. And you may not agree with every single solitary thing, and that's some of the debate we had with Secretary Clinton. A lot of folks didn't like her for a variety of reasons. I get it. You don't know. There are no perfect candidates. There
are none. But I hated the fact that I felt like there were a variety of things that were working against her. Some people just did not want to vote for a woman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's how I feel. Some people just did not. They were like, I would rather vote for you know what over here than to vote for a a candidate, whatever the gender is, a candidate, a highly qualified one, because she was female. And then I also feel like women were hating on her. Because when you have 56% of a certain demographic, okay, that came out and voted for her, that's incredible. That was unfortunate. 56%.
But look how 4 years have changed.
I can't believe that. Women voted for Trump?
But you have incredible women running on the Democratic side now.
Yes,
and all of them could be president. That's
yes.
Because I tend to think no matter who wins the Democratic nomination, that's going to be the next president.
Okay, so let's get to that part, because I definitely don't want, and then we'll get into some sports stuff. But before this is what I want to do. So how prominent do you think the black vote will be in this election in 2020?
I think you'll see numbers like we saw in 2008 for Obama.
What?
Mm-hmm. I think
really.
I think that folks now.
That's what 97% of the black vote came out and voted for him.
I think I don't know.
Or
again,
something. Those
I don't
numbers?
know about. I can't say 97.
Okay.
But it's going to be north of 85. And the reason is they're going to be voting against some of them. Some of them may like the Democratic nominee for a variety of reasons.
Okay.
But a lot of folks will be voting just to vote against Trump.
Just to vote against Trump.
Sorry.
Okay.
45.
45.
I'm not allowed, I don't like to say his
45.
name.
Okay.
Yes.
But let me ask you this question though, Michael, right? Do you think a 75-year-old older man, white male, can be the leader of the Democratic Party and be the leading candidate under that ticket?
I take it you're talking about Vice President Biden.
No.
Oh, who are you talking about? I'm sorry. Who are you talking about?
Bernie
you're talking about
Sanders.
You're talking about Bernie. Well, no. Well,
The
first of all,
senator from Vermont, right?
I'm sorry. The reason I didn't say Bernie is because Bernie's not going to make it out of the Democratic primary. He is not going to be the Democrat nominee.
You don't think everybody I'm talking to?
Let me tell you why.
Okay, he raised $10 million though, Michael, in 1 week.
He raised $20 million. Bring me
12,000 of them were Republicans, Michael.
Make sure you bring me back after the Democratic convention in July, and it will not be Bernie Sanders as the nominee.
I'll tell you. Tell me why.
There are a couple reasons.
Tell me why. We want to hear this.
Now, his fascination 4 years ago was incredible. Obviously, what he did.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with winning or losing. I mean, what he did and what he sparked was incredible.
Okay.
And his agenda and what he stands for, incredible. But you have a lot of hardcore Democrats. Because remember, 45 has been trying to decimate Democrats by talking about our leaders, talking about Speaker Pelosi, talking about minority leader Schumer, talking about everybody you can think of.
Yes.
Bernie Sanders, who, again, love his agenda, love his energy, love the people that support him. He's not a Democrat.
He's an independent.
So he will switch.
Okay.
And he will switch.
But he said he's always, they asked him that. I don't know if you saw the town hall yesterday on CNN. They did ask him that. And he said, look, I'm an independent in my state, but I've always been a part of the Democratic Party.
He has caucuses, but you shouldn't have to justify that. You're either Democrat or you're not. And and I think that's what a lot of hardcore Democrats are dealing with. And you have a lot of other people running that have similar agenda, that have same level of excitement, that people are gravitating to. So it would be interesting to see it come down. I just don't think he'll be the nominee. So when you were talking about an older white male,
yes,
you have to also, what's the point of this election? The point is you got to beat 45. It's not about being right it's about who can beat 45. Somebody has to be able to go to Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Iowa, Missouri, and have a moderate message linked with a left message. And the question is, who is that? I just think it's a Biden-Harris ticket if Biden wins. I think you check a lot of boxes with Biden-Harris.
No, you do check boxes, but someone sent this to me, and I have to ask this question. Do you think that his son marrying the other son's wife he's not going to have to get over that?
What are you talking about? Sounds like you're talking about Young and the Restless. What are you
No,
talking about?
well, it's a little like Restless.
Who?
I'm talking about Vice President Biden's son,
Oh,
Marion.
oh, you know, when you know, again, this is where
Bo's
remember,
wife.
remember we were talking about the social media stuff,
Yes.
and you know, he has gone.
He
through
has to answer for
absolutely,
that.
but he's gone through several campaigns, and anyone that's been tested already, I'm not worried about it because everyone's going to have to go through a test.
Okay.
No matter how perfect people may think they are, they're going to have to go through a test, and that includes Senator Biden, and he'll answer whatever if he chooses to run. If he does not run, I think you have a Donnybrook, unbelievable. But I still don't think it'll be Senator Sanders.
Really?
It'll be incredible battle because if Biden gets in, and even then you got to watch how President Obama plays. Remember that was his boy for 8.
Yes.
And you know he since Hillary jacked up his legacy, he now has to figure out who is the best person to put his machine behind.
Right.
He's going to put it behind somebody.
He's going to put it behind.
He's going to play the
Who do
role.
you think is he going to put it behind Biden if Biden runs?
I just don't see how he doesn't.
How he doesn't? Okay. Really?
Now, but Senator Harris is so impressive.
Yes.
Senator Klobuchar is very impressive. You have obviously if Beto decides to do something. I mean, you have some incredible people, and each of them are going to pull from Bernie. You think Bernie's going to have the numbers like he did before? Remember, it was just him and Hillary.
Right.
This time he's got Beto's going to have his piece of Bernie.
Yeah, but we're
Senator
talking
Warren-
about later on, though.
No,
Remember,
but
some of them kind of fall by the wayside,
yeah, but
though.
we're talking about by March of 20.
Right.
Maybe February. It's going to be that whittled down to a few. And if Bernie is still standing,
Okay.
it will be, we'll see if Bernie's still standing.
But let me tell you something. He is prepared to give his taxes, though. You see that? I mean, he was saying some strong things.
I thought everybody's going to do that.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Well, he stated
that claim
Yeah.
last night.
But every president's done it except 45. So that's not a. That's
yeah,
not a
but I mean, that's
litmus
pretty
test.
good that he's already saying,
absolutely.
listen, I'll reveal, I'm an open book. I mean,
Look.
last night I felt like he was pretty strong. I mean, and he's right. How do you let billions of billionaires get away without paying taxes, but then we don't have money for education?
Oh, no. Absolutely.
We don't have money to provide health care for everyone. How do you justify that? But you let billionaires and trillionaires get off tax-free. Like he made a good point. What was Jeff Bezos? What was his tax debt last year? How much did he pay in taxes? And he made $5 billion last year.
Elections have consequences. And when you sit at home or you don't feel like doing something because you don't like a particular candidate and the other candidate you don't like wins, elections have consequences. And the Supreme Court, for example, even though this country even though it's always in the middle, but sometimes it leans a little right, sometimes it leans a little left.
Right.
The country's starting to lean a little left, but
Okay.
the Supreme Court is right because 45 was in office when 2 seats came up.
Yes.
They jammed up Obama on his seat.
Yes.
So, I can't say it enough. Elections have consequences. And whatever policies you like, and that's what I'm saying. And, a lot of people are going to be pulling on Bernie's base. Beto is going to pull on Bernie's base. Senator
Yes.
Warren's already pulling on Bernie's base.
His base.
And so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so next question. Do you think if Vice President Biden does run, do you think he can beat 45?
Yes.
Why?
I think, it's hard to be a pundit, and I as you know, I go on other shows.
I know.
And it's hard because we were all on other shows saying there's no way 45 could win, and he won. So it's hard to make, but I think he would have the best chance to go into those states I talked about. Because remember, in the electoral college system, especially the way 45 won, you got to reverse those states. So forget the states that are going to be blue and are going to be red.
Right.
And yeah, there are a couple battleground states. But what was called the blue wave had always gone Democratic. That's what Obama relied on. That's what Clinton relied on to win. So it has to be a particular candidate with a particular message. Those are not, those states I mentioned earlier, those are not California and New York.
No.
Those are different, and D.C. Those are other kinds of states. You got to be a little more in the middle.
Right.
So messaging is going to be important. So
Okay.
when you go in talking about those kind of messages,
Right.
you better have a plan on how you're supposed to pay for it. Yes, it's easy to say tax the wealthy. That's easy. I understand, especially since they got their big tax cut from 45 in the Republican Congress. But it's bigger than that. You have to have a plan. How are you going to pay for these things? Because voters now say, "Why are you going to pay for it? You're going to increase the debt."
Yeah.
Because we still, the debt is incredible if you care about that. So there are a lot of different moving pieces that will happen in the next several months.
Okay, so let's just go back though to 45.
Yes.
Why did he win though? What was so
He
strong
captured-
about his messaging at that point, and why didn't we vote?
Well, two things. One, he captured something that the underbelly of America that some of us don't like to talk about.
Okay.
And after 8 years of an African American president, you had a lot of people out in the boonies,
Yes.
in the hitherlands,
Right.
that said, you know what, you're right. Maybe I can't do a woman. That's not an option. But this guy's kind of sounding like me. Wow, he didn't denounce David Duke. Wow, he's taking money from this organization. The NRA likes him. So all of a sudden, just like Obama raised up a bunch of folks that never participated, he did the same, but on the right. And so he captured it, different from the other folks that were running in the Republican Party for Republican nomination 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
He did something different. He got very aggressive, and it worked. And so from a non-politician to be very political and knowing exactly where he needed to get his votes, clearly also with help from Russia, because I do believe he cheated. In
I
the illegitimate
believe he got
presidency.
some help
He got some
somewhere
help.
along the
But
line.
nonetheless, his message resonated with a bunch of folks that wanted a different America, or wanted America from before.
Do you think that is the same message he's going to, and do you
He's
think
a
it'll
one-
be
he's
just
a-
as powerful?
45 is a one-trick pony. And he's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to run on immigration, run on all these black and brown people coming into America and committing crimes. He's going to run on the exact same thing to get his people. Watch him. He's a one-trick pony. He's going to talk a little bit about the tax cut so he can raise some money for that's but that's what a lot of Republicans do when they run for president.
Right.
So that's what he's going to run on, and it's up to us to stop it.
Wow. Okay. So can we just talk about the entertainment business real quick before we have to go and let We the Shit come on? That's the show up after me.
I take it he's in the studio. You're talking about him like that.
They're here. So some of them are. He's standing right there. But just talk about real quick about what is your feeling though about say like a R. Kelly? Okay.
It's awful. It's terrible. It's I mean, but I was one of those folks who's evolved, because as a was formerly known as an R. Kelly fan, you knew about the trials and acquittals, but after that documentary, that it just changed my whole thought process. I took his music off my phone. It's terrible. I mean, there's no excuse. It's just zero excuse. I feel bad for the families and for the victims, and we'll just have to see where justice goes.
But there is an issue there. There definitely is an issue with R. Kelly, wouldn't you say? I mean,
An issue.
I'm talking about a long-term issue
clearly.
that has gone clearly
Clearly.
ignored
And unchecked.
unchecked to the extent that we didn't realize that, though, right?
And I just told you, I'm one of those ones.
But did you
One of those
see
people.
that every time, they're right, every time something happened, he would put out a song like, I Believe I Can Fly.
Incredible. I mean, he was a musical genius.
I
There's
mean-
no question about that. But you don't find me on my phones anymore.
Yeah,
It's unfortunate, and frankly, and that's what I don't know if you're going to segue into the Michael Jackson.
that's what I
situation.
was getting ready to.
And
right,
I'm a little
go into that.
disappointed in HBO for a couple of reasons. One, besides the fact that it's been a rough couple of months for black male entertainers.
Yes.
And it just seems
Jussie
to me,
Smollett.
is this the climate for that? Especially since he's not here to defend himself. Different from the R. Kelly situation, he's here to defend himself. He can go into court, take the stand, and say mount whatever defense he wants. Michael Jackson doesn't have that ability to do that.
But
It just
talk
seems a
about,
little,
but
seems
just
a little
tell
unfair.
us
It's a little unfair.
but just tell us real quick, Michael, what is getting ready to come down the pipe?
Well, there's I don't even want to publicize it, but HBO is running a 2-night documentary on Sunday and Monday night, and they have two disgruntled, supposedly perjured people that are going to talk about Michael Jackson, and a lot of folks don't like it, and I think you're going to start seeing a lot of pressure on HBO and Time Warner or Warner Media now and AT&T to say, hey, is this something you have to do? Is this the climate you have to do it in?
Right.
To
His family
destroy a black person's legacy.
His family is also suing.
They are suing for $100 million. That hasn't stopped them from running it yet. There's a lot of pressure on those three entities, and certainly if you care about Michael, I mean, you're certainly more than welcome to contact AT&T, Warner Media, or HBO and say, hey, we don't want you to run this. If you do, we may take action against and not watch your station, watch your channel. We'll see how,
Right.
But, also people have a very high tolerance for pain now. Maybe people watch it and don't care. But I would rather not run at all.
Really? You don't think that they have some information that we...
Oh, I think it's going to be terrible.
You do?
Oh, absolutely. Why would they do it? If it was a beautiful piece, it would be a different kind of market.
Do you think that they are? But do you think that they are lying, or do you think that this is just the timing of it is?
I think both.
You think both?
I think
really?
I think they have been talked about as perjurers. So why would they be believed on anything they say about Michael? And second, the climate is the timing right now? Do you have to do it right this second? And that's, I think, what people are a little salty about, especially the family.
And do we know how long that they have been
No.
recording this over a period of like a few years?
Well, it seems that these two subjects in the documentary or show or movie, whatever you want to call it, have been pitching this story for quite some time.
Oh,
they were two of the people that did not, quote unquote, paid.
Okay.
And so they're salty, and this is how they're getting their revenge.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Michael, what should we be doing right now to prepare for 2020 as voters? What should we be doing?
Paying attention. I think what's the news? Be woke.
Be woke.
And I think part of being woke means listen
aware.
to the issues. Understand who your candidates are. Yes, if you're a Bernie fan, support Bernie all the way through. Knock on doors. If you like Senator Harris, support her all the way through. And then you get to the Democratic convention, and we'll figure out who the nominee is going to be. And then once that's the case, this is the message. If your person doesn't win, don't take your ball and go home and bitch and moan. You have to get behind the Democratic nominee because the goal is to beat 45. If you want another 4 years of this clown, then stay home, be upset that your person didn't win, and have probably one, definitely Ruth. I love Ginsburg, but 45 could have possibly 2 more selections on the Supreme Court. If you don't vote for any other reason, you need to vote for the Supreme Court because your children are going to be banned by decisions this court makes. Women are going to have to deal with Supreme Court decisions. People of color, immigrants. I'm telling you, don't play. This is an extreme. I know every 4 years people say this is the most important election of a lifetime.
Yes.
But please tell me how anything's more important than this one. You can't have another 4 years of 45.
Wow.
So don't take your ball and go home.
Okay.
Just understand, and you know what? Maybe hopefully the person who's the nominee, will pick up the issues of your person that didn't win, and you'll get your issues answered. But please stay woke, stay engaged, stay involved. Don't be upset if your candidate doesn't win, and be ready to go from July all the way from the convention through the general election to deal with 45. And if you're in a state that has members of Congress on the ballot and senators, also vote Democrat for them. Flip the Senate, and then we can start getting some sanity back in this country.
Ooh, flip the Senate. That's what we need to do, right? We flipped the House, now we need to flip the Senate. Just talk about some of the things you're doing before you go.
Well, I'm back at my lobbying shop here in town.
Okay.
Capitol Hill, and trying to help level the playing field for entities and different entities.
Okay,
also
so we'll be seeing you all around D.C., right?
And also working at a company that does a lot of staffing and job training to make sure that folks that feel that they need a little extra helping hand, we can help train them, support them, get them staffed, get them working again. Okay. And then if they need to be retrained, we'll retrain you.
Okay.
to make sure you can keep that job or get
That's
a promotion.
in D.C. as
That's
well?
in D.C. And
Okay.
so we're doing several things. So we're doing some stuff. We try to do good and do well at the same time.
Good and well. Okay, that's wonderful. And then tell us about your book.
Well, book's coming out. We'll talk about that later. We have book will be out before the end of 19.
Okay.
And we just talk a little bit about, my life and trials and tribulations and successes and growing up in D.C. and growing up in bougie D.C.
In bougie
A lot of people want to hear about what that's about. And but it's I'm looking forward to the release.
Yes, because some of us did not grow up like Cosby kids. Like I call Michael Brown. But you know what, though, Michael?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. But you still played ball, in D.C.
Well, my father had a little trick when I was playing basketball when I was younger. He would drop me off in Berry Farms and drop me off around the corner because he didn't want folks to see what kind of car he was driving. And he said, "I'll be back in a couple hours." And I went and balled because of nothing wrong with balling. Nothing wrong with balling in Chevy Chase and Shepherd Park. But if you can ball in Berry Farms, you were doing all right.
You can ball just about anywhere.
That's
right. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been great. Hey, look for Michael once a month. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be touching base and just reminding you to get out and vote come 2020. This is probably, next to Obama's, it's a really important election because we saw what the last 4 years.
And let me tell you, there are going to be a lot of dirty
like.
tricks. 45, and his folks are going to do everything. You're going to see things on your phone that aren't accurate. You're going to see things in email that aren't accurate. You're going to see things on the news that aren't accurate. He's going to pull out every trick to keep you from voting. Don't let him bamboozle you. Don't get run amok. Stay strong and stay woke.
Stay woke. From the mouth to your ears, right here from Michael Brown, the Honorable Michael Brown, D.C. council member.
Yeah, that
DC
go-go in the background.
Got some
Yeah,
go-go in the background. That's how we do it right here. Race to 2020. That's the segment. Don't forget, you guys, each and every Tuesday, I'm right here, Lena 7, for The Hustle, WLVS Radio, right across the street from where I grew up. I grew up down the street, 6th and O Street Market, yes. I didn't grow up on, upper Northwest like my boy here, but that's okay.
In the flower streets. We were strong in the flower streets.
But anyway, nonetheless, it's your girl. I'll see you guys next week, next Tuesday. And don't forget, coming up, Spring Fling is going to be coming up. I'm going to have a party. I'm going to have a band here and a whole bunch of other stuff. We're going to be having a lot of fun. But don't forget also, you can see Michael once a month right here at The Hustle. Okay? I'll see you guys next time. The Hustle. Reach out. Yes, call us, whatever. Each and every Tuesday, 6 p.m. right here, WLVS Radio. See you guys next time. Later. Bye.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you.
Like Saint Laid busy, in control. So